Sorry. My name is Isabel, and my son is 15, and he's undiagnosed. And we've been looking for a diagnosis since he was about a year and a half. And I'll just give you a little example of what our life can look like and why we're sometimes limited in what I can do and where I can go, and why life is very variable from day to day. So last week, I was staying up too late watching Netflix and was actually planning on finally closing the computer and going to bed. And my son came really stumbling out of his room, and he was shaking violently and saying he didn't feel well. He was almost falling down, and we kind of supported him coming into the living room. And it actually had happened once before, except the previous time it had happened, we didn't know what to do, but our family doctor was in town, and we live in a smaller town, so he actually works in the hospital as well. So we really didn't know what to do at that time, and didn't know how to support him. We took his blood pressure because he struggles with his blood pressure. It gets quite low, and we were scared because it hadn't happened before. And at that time, we took him into the hospital. And actually, thankfully, the first time it happened, our family doctor wasn't in the hospital, but the two nurses that were there for a procedure that we were in for the week before were at the hospital again. And it's funny because they saw how we interacted with our family doctor, and that he deferred to us when there was something that was unusual about our son, that he knew that it was our knowledge that took the lead, not his. So they did the same. And that the doctor that was on call at the hospital in the emergency room could see that. So he deferred to us. So what we ended up doing in supporting our son the first time he woke up and was shaking uncontrollably with really low blood pressure, we ended up giving him IV support, and we stayed with him in the ER for a while, and then eventually things got better, and we toddled off back home. So that was not this last week, but a while ago. So last week, same thing happened, shaking uncontrollably. His blood pressure is dropping. It's quite low, and he's scared, and we're not knowing exactly what to do because he has no diagnosis, and this is one of the weird things that happens to him. Well, it happened to him once before, and this is what we're thinking. Do we take him to the hospital? And it would have been easy if our doctor was in town, because we can always text him because he'll answer our texts. But he's in Guatemala this time, so we can't go to him for backup, so we don't know who's on call. And we don't know whether it's a good idea to actually wrap him up and potentially make him worse, because now we're taking him out of the house and he could actually just feel worse from leaving. Do we drive him the hour and a half to Children's Hospital? The problem there is we actually, because he's undiagnosed, we have no clinic. And while we have, 7+ specialists that treat his parts, we don't have anybody coordinating the care other than me, and nobody who kind of sees the full picture. Nobody there that saw him last time this happened and wouldn't necessarily believe me when I tell them, no, all he really needs is an IV. So we don't have anybody that necessarily trusts that I know what to do. And plus then we put him in a car for an hour and a half, and no way of supporting him in that car as his blood pressure potentially drops further. Or do we just stay at home and support him and monitor his blood pressure and hope that he gets better on his own? So that's our decision point. What do we do? Keep him home and warm and comfortable, monitor his blood pressure, take him to the local little hospital and hope that the doctor listens to us, but potentially make him feel worse because he's not at home, or truck down to the Children's Hospital that's an hour and a half away. What would you do? We stayed home and just monitored his blood pressure and decided what the lowest of the low would be before we decided we needed a physician to hopefully listen to us and give him, they would give him an IV if it got really dangerously low, and just kept an eye on him, and then presumably they would transfer him to Children's at some point. And eventually he fell asleep. His blood pressure got low, but not super dangerously low. And what happened is that he caught a cold, and I guess now with his whatever rare disease that's not diagnosed as happens, this is what happens to him the day before he comes out with the symptoms of a cold. His blood pressure drops almost dangerously low. He starts shaking uncontrollably, and IV support maybe sometimes is necessary and sometimes not. But this is the knowledge that I hold and my husband holds, and he's going to have to hold as he gets older. And somehow we need to find a way for this knowledge to be transferred at point of care if he needs to go to a hospital. And I don't know what the mechanism is for that.